This is my Samsung NX 12-24mm lens. I bought this new a couple of years ago in the UK. As you see, it comes supplied with a lens cap and a lens hood. And I usually leave my lens hoods on all my Samsung lenses because it offers the front element more protection. However, a couple of months ago, I wanted to take some photos through some wire netting. And so I removed the bayonet lens hood from the lens so that I could get closer to the wire and take a photograph through the wire without the wire interfering with the image that I was trying to photograph. Having completed my photograph, I then went to put my supplied lens hood back on the lens by mating up the two white dots here as usual, turning it through about 90 degrees until it just clicked into place. As you can see, there's a little indent on the lens that allows it to just stay firmly on the lens without falling off accidentally. One of the things about my lens, however, that you'll notice is that since I did that a couple of months ago, that photograph a couple of months ago, it's suffered a bit of a catastrophic failure. And you can tell that if you shake it slightly. You can hear something rattling around inside. Removing the rear lens cover, you can see that this lens actually is not quite normal. For when I put the supplied lens hood back on the lens, I was somewhat surprised to see that the entire lens literally fell apart in my hands. And you can see that the rear element of the lens is the part that is loose now in the back, and the mount has detached, and these other components have fallen out, and the whatever it is that connects the pins of the lens to the electronics of the lens has broken, rendering the lens completely useless. It's snapped off here. So now I have a completely useless lens. As you can see, the rear element of the lens is completely loose, and which is probably not terribly good for its optical performance. So that's my lens. As you can see, however, the lens has not been dropped. I look after all my lenses extremely well, and there's not a mark on this lens on the exterior. You can see here one of the three mounting points that the lens is attached to. As you can see, it's a small area of plastic which has sheared away from the main part of the mount. There are three of these on this lens, the diameter of which is barely 3mm. And then of course there's the center hole in the center, which you might think takes a screw, but in fact you'd be wrong. For if we actually look at the rear mount, and this is where it's sheared off here, you can see that the screw protrudes perhaps 1mm or so from the plastic donut. So the entire turning force, the load on this lens and the body, is taken entirely on this very, very small area of plastic here. That's what's keeping the lens attached to your camera body. So aghast at this complete and catastrophic failure of my lens under completely normal use, I wrote to Mr. Sunny Lee, President and CEO of Samsung Electronics, at their European headquarters in Surrey, England. I believed he should be aware of the issue, and that even though my lens was out of guarantee, that Samsung should repair it at no cost to me, as clearly the lens was poorly designed and not fit for purpose.
I had expected that Samsung's response would be immediate and apologetic. Alas, this was not the case. 2 weeks after the lens was delivered to them, I received an email from a Faye Pentecost who works in the President's Executive Office. She wrote, "Unfortunately, I am going to have to send the camera back to you unless you would like me to get the service centre to quote you with a price for repair." Stunned by this unhelpful reply, I protested that this was unreasonable. However, it got worse the following day when she replied saying that she'd gone to our product specialist for advice, who remarkably had informed her that there is no damage to the lens and it is in pristine condition. One can only wonder what she and the product specialist were looking at. In a further email, she repeated her claim that there are no known issues with this camera or lens having a design fault, which is clearly at odds with the apparent experience in Denmark, and possibly other countries too, where they didn't try to repair any lenses. For those who had problems, they simply replaced the lens with a new one. This really shook me, as I have since discovered there are many documented cases of this lens failing other users in the same manner. Exasperated at being stonewalled by Samsung, I have set up a community Facebook page where you can find out much more about the issue. The current situation is unfair on both existing and potential owners of this lens, and it is also undermining the credibility of the NX brand. I, for one, have held off making any further investment in the product line until the situation is resolved satisfactorily. It's time that Samsung came clean, acknowledged the problem, and issued replacement lenses to all those affected by this problem.